There was an article that quoted a Peter Brock line, which was, "Bite off more than you can chew, then chew like hell." I thought that really summed up those sort of early days of Northern Star. We had really big growth ambitions. We were willing to work hard. We were willing to take the bites. We've now got the most renewable energy powered mine in Australia, percentage-wise, from a power perspective. We've been able to declare that we've got net zero gold production for all of last year, for all of 2025. And
Amazing.
we continue to do net zero gold production now. And not just say yes, but then when you get that opportunity to actually be action-oriented. And I think that's the key. That philosophy is something that has really sort of, resonated with me through my career. It's just, okay, have a crack. We really do value culture as a company. Like, that's been something that we've put a lot of focus on. The opportunity that we have in the resources sector to attract people is as good as it's ever been. The reason for that is mining and resources was always seen as a dirty industry, but you could go and make money and you might be able to get a good job. I think we've seen the script on that flip over the past 10 years. But us insiders in the industry actually know that it's actually a really meaningful thing that you do. You're taking something that sits in situ and creating real value from it. That gets me up and about in the morning. Don't drink your own bathwater. Don't take too much ownership of the good times, because it's mining. There's always going to be challenges.
Welcome back to another episode on the Gold Room podcast. I've been hammering this poor bloke here, Darren Stralow from Bellevue Gold. I've been asking him for ages, probably for over a year, to come into the studio and spend some time with me. He's obviously been bloody busy, but Dazza, thanks very much for joining me, mate.
No worries, mate. Great to be here.
Excellent. Look, as you know, do you have a favourite episode, mate? What do you reckon?
Oh, look, I think I've really enjoyed some of the recent episodes. Like, Wayne Bramwell, obviously, I work with him on the Gold Industry Group board. He's a great fella and I think has a really good attitude when it comes to running mining companies. And then I saw you interviewed one of my my vacation mining
Madison
engineering employees the other week, and that was good. That was a good, fun little interview.
Yeah. Very smart girl. She'll go places.
No,
That's awesome.
She'll go places. Yep.
Look, mate, we start every episode with the life and the times. So take me back to you as a young fella.
Yeah, so I guess the quick story of it is, so I was born in New South Wales, born in Dubbo, so middle of New South Wales. My dad was a high school teacher and was teaching at Cobar High School at the time. So
wow, recently in the news.
Yeah, so that was the family introduction to mining was, dad living in Cobar, well, mum and dad living in Cobar. That's where me and my brother were born. We're from, Dubbo Base Hospital, and lived in New South Wales for a couple of years, but then moved to Fremantle, which is where my mum's from, and lived in Fremantle since I was about 3. So I consider myself a Freo local, or a East Freo local if you want to be more specific. And
who's your team, mate?
The East Fremantle Sharks, the Mighty Sharks, and in the Waffle, and the Freo Dockers in the AFL.
Freo Dockers are having a bloody a good little start to the season, aren't they?
Yeah.
What do you reckon they'll be like at the end?
We've got to be there in September, and then anything can happen. But as a Freo supporter, and then from my dad's side, I inherited being a Parramatta Eels supporter.
Oh wow!
And so what that teaches you is resilience over time, right? Because you just get used to everything.
Yeah, beautiful. Take me back to your schooling years, mate.
Yeah, so went to school in the sort of Freo area, just public schools, primary school and high school in that time. I'm pretty close to my brother. Like, we were born a year apart, so he's actually in mining as well. So he's a operations manager for Northern Star now. He worked his way up from the underground mining side of things to be an ops manager now. So he's done really well for himself. But yeah, we grew up pretty close through the years. It was the 90s in sort of East Freo. So we were, bodyboarding was a big thing. We go down the beach and surf. We listen to punk rock. We go to concerts.
Who's your favourite punk rock band? Do you remember? Who were you listening to at the time?
Well, I still listen
Rancid.
I still listen to punk rock now. And if you want to see me on the rare occasions that a 90s punk band will come through Perth, you'll usually find me and my brother hanging out up the back of the mosh pit for a bit of fun.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, Rancid, NoFX, Pennywise, Lagwagon, Strung Out, all the big ones.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Did you do well in high school?
Yeah, I did okay. Yeah, so I was a relatively good student, and the science and math side of things was good to me. Like I've always been a straight C English student.
C's get degrees, don't they?
Oh yeah, and I learned that at university as well. So look, it made me want to go down the engineering path when I went to university, and that was what I was keen to do. But I just didn't know, what the different disciplines were, what they meant, what it meant doing on a day by day basis. And when I started doing some research into it, I was talking to my old man about it, and because of his exposure to mining sort of early in his career and the impression that left on him, he pushed the mining engineering angle and said, look, mate, I know you're not going to be a person that wants to just sit behind a computer crunching data all the time. You're going to want to go and get your boots dirty and get out in the field. I think mining would be a really good option for you. And so we signed up to mining and went to Curtin University for 1 year and then made the decision to move out to Kalgoorlie for a few years.
What year did you move out to Cal?
So I was 18 when I moved to Cal
Wow.
and lived there for, on and off, 3 years solid. Then I went away for a bit and then went back to Kalgoorlie. And look, it was such a defining part of my life, the WASM experience in Kalgoorlie. Like WASM is such a strong institution. When you think about, this was 1998 that I moved out there, didn't have a mobile phone. The only way you could get in contact with people in Perth was through a payphone. So you all, get a bunch of kids, all move out to Kalgoorlie all at the same time. You all live close to each other. You go into the same classes, you go into the same pubs, you go into the same social events, and you form this really, really strong bond with your cohort that's out there. And it's not just the people that are in your sort of one class, but it's the people that are, all through the years out there. And, even now, my closest mates are my WASM mates. And, I sit at the footy with the guy I used to live with in, when I go to a Dockers game, I'll sit next to the guy that I lived with in Kalgoorlie when I was at the School of Mines, 25 years ago. So it's a great connection and a great sort of physical way to be together. But that whole culture of the institution and the support that it provides you all through the years is, it's just awesome.
If you had to, what you do, speak to 18, 19, 20-year-olds, if you had to speak to a 15 and 16-year-old that was thinking about going to university or not knowing what to do, what would you tell them?
Well, and I'm about to enter this phase of my life. My daughter's about to turn 14, so I've been trying to push her to study engineering and do all that because she's a bit more, I think she's a bit more inclined that way.
Cool.
But
what does she want to do?
Oh, she doesn't know.
Yeah, okay, they don't.
Yeah, I think she's just moving out of the phase of life where you want to be a YouTube star or an influencer and realizing what that means. Getting into high school and, high school just changes your life. You go from being a big fish in a small pond to being a small fish in a massive pond at high school. And, there's so many confusing things. Yeah, cool. Very well. Yeah. It's just, the schools are really good these days at, creating connections and looking after cohorts and doing it all. So, she hates the social media ban, but I quietly love it because it just allows kids to be kids, which I think is...
They lost that for a little bit, didn't they?
They did lose that for a little bit. But look, what do you say to them is just, find something that, you can be passionate about and you like and is worth the effort that you want to put into it because... career progression comes through, application and effort. And if you go into something that, you're not passionate about and you don't want to do, then putting in that application, putting in that effort is going to be really hard, right? Yeah. So, you always want to try and lean on them. And, I'd love one of my kids to go to the School of Mines and study mining engineering. But, exactly. But look, who knows where they'll end up.
I think the WA Mining Club does a very, very good job with, Barry Upton getting those, they're doing the school camps.
The school camps, yeah.
And I think 4 days they go around and go around and have a look at everything. And that's so powerful. It's amazing that they do that. It's
awesome. And the amount of people, throughout the years at WASM that have been attracted to it through the Get Into Mining camp. So, there's a great organisation called Get Into Mining, which run, a big day in Perth that exposes kids to it. There's Susie and the core side of things that do a lot of work to attract people into the industry. There's the mining camps that used to be run by Curtin University. Now Barry's got his mining camps. Like the people that's going to drag into the industry and get in there is going to be great because it's one of those sort of industries that when you get exposed to it and you see what it is and you get past all of the external noise, you see the opportunities, you see, the connection that people have within it, you see the rewarding nature of the job, and people want to work in it, and you get people to become part of the workforce.
Well, we need it, Darren.
And we need it.
We need it. This country needs it. It's the mining industry here in WA, and I say this all the time. People must be like, "Oh my God, shut up!" But it's the lifeblood of the bloody country. Yeah. It's what runs the country.
It is, and it runs a lot of places. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine who lives down in the Margaret River region, who has kids that have just joined the workforce, and these kids have grown up, surfing, wanting to live in Margaret River, wanting to be part of it, and this next generation's been priced out. It's very hard to get a job and stay in Margs and work, and this would be the same for a lot of regional places. FIFO's offered them an opportunity where they can, go away, work out in the field, make some money, and then have a future based down in there. So, some people say, and FIFO for internal towns and stuff, it's always a debating point, and there's always going to be people reasons that people want to live regionally and be home every day and see their families, and that's great.
Yeah.
But FIFO also helps as well because it gives people a chance to make some money, set themselves up, and allow them to have a really good future.
Mate, what do you think about a young person that's thinking about university and their mates are already off working FIFO in the mines? Some of the older ones, so they might have an older brother, sister, and you're going to get $120,000+ to go and work as a truck driver in a mine, or you're looking down the barrel of 4 years at uni, 3 years at uni to become, or 3 to 4 years. The house prices keep going up. Inflation's, everything's just so expensive. And, like you've got you've got a teenager, I've got a teenager. And do you worry? And do you think we as an industry are doing enough to help support people getting into tertiary education?
Yeah,
and what can we do better?
It's a very layered question. I think that the opportunity that we have in the resources sector to attract people is as good as it's ever been. And the reason for that is that, mining and resources was always seen as a dirty industry, but you could go and make money and, you might be able to get a good job and, set yourself up financially. But it was more about that than the value of the work and the purpose behind the work. I think we've seen the script on that flip over the past, 10 years, but probably accelerated in the last 5 or so years, in that and to that end, we're probably going to see it have another sort of boost of acceleration off the back of the Middle East issues that we're having at the moment, where the reliance of the world on hydrocarbons, diesel, all that type of thing is now at the forefront, and the only way to wean ourselves off hydrocarbon is to double down on electrification, double down on things like copper and lithium and nickel and all these things that you're going to have to mine. So allowing that paradigm shift to go from, oh look, it's a dirty industry, but you can make good money and you can set yourself up well. Us insiders in the industry actually know that it's actually a really meaningful thing that you do. You're taking something that sits in situ and creating real value from it, and that gets me up and about in the morning. But being able to tie that together with a purpose of decarbonising the world, of de-risking society from global issues and doing that should act as a really high attractant to people wanting to get into the resources industry. And it's moving rocks. AI is going to help you, but it's not going to do it for you. No. So it's going to be, in my opinion, one of the more resilient industries out there in coming years.
Mate, I want to get into, you spent over a decade with Northern Star during its growth phase. Northern Star, it's one of the top.
It's a great company.
Fantastic. Yeah. So tell me about your role there.
Yeah, so I had a long journey.
Roles.
Yeah, a long journey with a lot of different roles in Northern Star. And I guess it's a good place to start on the career because the early stage of my career is just sort of learning your technical side of things and being, I'm a mining engineer. Or I'm a reformed mining engineer. I still know how to say all the right words, but I don't know how to do any of the buttons and stuff these days.
Yep.
But learnt all the technical stuff over the years, and then found myself in a managerial role at a mine that was bought by Northern Star. So it was Northern Star's first mine, Paulson's, up in the Pilbara.
Oh, yeah.
Great little mine. We had
I think Black Cat's got that
Black
now,
Cat's
don't
got
they?
that now, yeah. And they're still kicking along. And look, I've just got such an affinity for that place because it's a really nice, isolated little mine. It has its challenges. It's one of the hottest places in Western Australia to operate. So, the crew there, work hard in a harsh environment. But it created this bond between us. It became such a really nice place to work. And, I spent quite a few years associated with Paulson's as a mine and have a huge amount of affinity for it and learnt a lot there as a professional, as a person, right? And, I just happened to be there in a managerial role when Northern Star bought it. And back in those days, Northern Star was 3 people in an office in Balcatta, right?
Awesome. That's a cool story, eh?
It's a cool story. And the team there had to lean on us as the managers to be part of that initial startup of Northern Star. And, you do feel like you're a part of that sort of bootstrapping of the business from a startup $10 million market cap to, the big multi-billion-dollar behemoth that it is now. And I was kind of, lucky to be there at the start and, the few fortunate things went well, but then also, I guess, really focused on that next stage of my career, just being flexible, being, adaptive to different roles. When I got in roles, putting in the effort and putting in the application into doing the job well so that, one, I kept the job, but then two, when another opportunity came along, they had an option of, do we hire someone in who's an expert at that, or let's just give it to Stralow and see how he goes. And so a lot of my opportunities in my career have been just, look, he's probably not ready yet, but let's just give him a crack and see how he goes. And if it works out, great. If not, then we'll just get someone else in. And
that also falls on you, though, right? That falls on you to say yes.
Yeah.
When someone comes to you with an opportunity, and I really like this, I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
It's the ability for an individual to say yes to an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. And not just say yes, but then when you get that opportunity to actually, be action oriented. And I think that's the key thing is, you learn pretty early on. And I think, I sort of reflect back to some early career stuff, and mines rescue had a big effect on me, right? I was a mines rescue captain as a really young professional.
I was a vice captain.
Yeah, there you go. And, part of mines rescue is just decisions under pressure and action. Because if you don't make a decision and you don't create action from it, then you just stay in the same spot and nothing gets solved. And I've sort of taken that philosophy all the way through your career, is that you just go, okay, what's the situation? What are my possible actions? All right, let's do these ones and see where it gets us. And you're never going to find, it's not typical to find the straightest line between 2 points, between where you are and the outcome that you want. But by creating actions and doing things early, you just get closer. It's much closer to the end point than you would be if you just stayed there and not made a decision and not put any actions in the first place. So I think that philosophy is something that has really sort of, resonated with me through my career. It's just, okay, have a crack. And one of the comments that was made about us in the Northern Star sort of growth days, I think it was 2014, just after we bought Jundee, there was an article that quoted a Peter Brock line, which was, bite off more than you can chew, then chew like hell.
Yeah, I like it.
And I thought that really summed up those sort of early days of Northern Star. We had really big growth ambitions. We were willing to work hard and we were willing to take the bites. And then once you took the bite, you just had to, chew like hell, get through it. And, we were quite fortunate that, the commodity market was quite buoyant. The gold price went up and we created an awesome business.
Yeah, beautiful. Mate, at what point did you realise that you wanted to step into a CEO position?
Yeah, it's quite funny. I think
there'd be times when you'd be like, "Why did I do that?"
Never.
No, never.
Absolutely.
Okay,
never.
all right. Then.
Yeah. You believe that? You believe anything? It really just comes down to natural progression. Like it really does. Is I've sort of moved up the ladder methodically. And, even when I was on site, there wasn't many roles that I jumped over. Like sometimes I would move through a role quickly, but I didn't jump over a role and try and go, 2 steps up without doing the baseline work first. And, throughout my career, I've been, I guess debatably moved up quicker than would be typical. And like I was a young GM on site, for example. I was a GM at 32 years old.
Great.
And
You deserved it.
well, yeah. And look, at the end of the day, it was just because, someone saw something in me, gave me a crack, and I, put some actions in place. We made it work and had a really good team around you and had really good people that you value and you back and you make do the work. Because it's, particularly when you're in those managerial roles, it's not about you. It's about the strength of the team, the strength of the culture and the work that everybody else puts in. But, you sort of take that through and, I'd been corporate for, best part of almost 10 years or exposed to corporate between corporate and ops for about 10 years. And it's the next natural progression. So, yeah, that was left Northern Star, had a bit of a career break, worked on my golf game, and then
How's your golf game?
took the Bellevue job, and I haven't played golf since.
Mate, you've been bloody busy.
Correct.
You've been bloody busy. Let's get into Bellevue.
Yep.
You guys have done amazing things. You had a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone at some point has a tough time.
Yep.
I say this all the time: no politics, no religion, and no bad quarterly reports.
Yep.
Because talking with Wayne and talking about the Father's Day find, how amazing is that to turn a nickel mine into a gold mine?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and that's off the back of a
And you look at
bad
the
quarterly report to a ripper.
Yeah, you look at the Swan vein at Fosterville, right? Like, Fosterville ticked along for a long time, and
Yep.
then they discovered a world-class deposit there, and Fosterville became one of the best mines in the world almost overnight.
Yep.
And you always dream of something like that happening, but
For
you always
sure.
plan for the baseline of just getting the technical fundamentals right, and then just leveraging off that for long-term success.
What did Bellevue look like when you first got there?
Yeah, so Bellevue was transitioning from exploration company with a very exploration culture to it to being a developer. So I used to joke that I was the Grinch in the office, because when I turned up, there was beer taps in the kitchen, there were dogs coming to the office, there was a table tennis table in the kitchen, and let's just say now we don't have any of those things. And I guess the reason being is that my background is ops, and when you're an exploration company, corporate's very important, because that's where the scale of the business is, and the center of gravity of the business sits in that corporate. When you go to the ops side of things, the center of gravity becomes ops, and if you're taking the piss at a corporate level, the ops guys are going to resent you and see what you're doing, and you've got to realize at some stage that you're a mining company and you need to start acting like a mining company. So, it just was at a spot where, needed to move into that development phase. So
Knuckle down and make some big calls.
Make some calls, but get really stuck into what was going to create value, which was building the mine. So, that was a exciting project. I sort of thought about it from the Northern Star days, where our model there was to buy mines might be a bit unloved or underutilized, and run them hard, explore them hard, run them well, and create value that way. We'd never built a full mine, full processing plant, all integrated thing from scratch before, and just saw it as a really good career opportunity to get in there. And only in WA can you discover a deposit in November 2017 and then be pouring first gold in October 2024, right? So under 6 years from discovery to gold. Western Australia is the reason it happened. The quality of the deposit is the reason it happened that quickly. And, we've set up a mine that's going to be there for a long time, which is the good thing. And, to your point on the ramp up, we're not the first company to have issues when you're ramping up a mine, and we won't be the last. Quite often, the mine would be in a portfolio of mines. So sometimes you can wash over those issues. We're a single asset company, so you're pretty exposed in having to communicate those things well and do it. And what we've tried to do is just talk about where we're at, talk about how we're going to remedy it and how we're going to fix it, and then execute on that plan. So we've sort of had our head down, bum up, getting that right over the last 12 months or so. But we're starting to really see, consistent production come from site, see the fruits of our labour come through. And I think that we really do value culture as a company. Like that's been something that we've put a lot of focus on
It's very
over
important.
the journey. Super important. And getting that organisational culture and that site culture and the people side of things right has been really important. And, the mine and the culture is the thing that will attract people. It'll retain people and it'll do it, all through the issues that we've had and all through the ramp up, no matter whether it was up or down. There are tough days, there are good days, there are everything in between. But, I like to say that if I ever needed to feel good, I'd just go to site. I'd go to site, I'd spend time hanging out with the people on site and talking to them.
They
and
become
seeing,
your family near on.
Yeah. And
family, friends.
And you can see the good work that's happening. You can see the development that's there. You can see it all. And that if you just keep ticking away at it, then things are going to steady and things are going to get well. And that's sort of exactly what happened. And, really, really pleasingly, like we've had pretty low turnover through that whole time because, we haven't sort of hidden in the West Perth office as well. We've made a conscious effort to get to site, to see people. Like I'm very open with the site people. Like I like to go up on a very regular basis and just do town halls with the workforce. And I'll literally force people to ask me questions in a town hall. So I'll talk and say, this is what's going on with the company. This is what's that, because there can be so many rumours externally. There can be so many things that you hear in the media and everything about how you do or online or whatever.
Yep.
There's nothing like just being able to...
The boss coming to site doing a state of the nation.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But you just do it and just be, okay, what else you got? And people in the audience know that if they don't ask me questions, I'm going to make them ask me questions.
What about you, mate? What about you?
So, and, being open with the workforce and communicating well internally is, it's big. It's really important to me.
They'll be appreciative of that too.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah. I believe so. So you say single asset. What else is local that you could be ripping into next? You can't say that, can you? What a silly question. What an idiot. Bloody hell. No mergers and acquisitions on the cards. What about drill holes then?
Yeah, look, I think on the M&A front, some of that stuff is, it's right place, it's right time. It's, it's certainly something that every company should be open to. I think every company is for sale at all times. It just depends on the price and what you're paying for it with.
People were looking at Bellevue last year, weren't they?
Yeah,
there were a couple of people.
There was a couple of people around.
Are we allowed to say who?
No.
Okay, that's great. I won't say. I know, but, but I won't say. Bellevue would as you say, every company's up for sale.
So Bellevue's a really good asset, and it would be good in a portfolio. It's a good mine as it is, and we're sort of, if that's what we have to do, then we're comfortable doing it.
Yep.
But you need to focus on what you can control, right? And that's the thing, is you can't control what other companies want to do and what other companies' strategies are. You can get your own house in order is what you want to do. So that's what we've really tried to do, is just get the house in order, get everything working well. Be open with our shareholders, be open with our employees, be open with the world about where we want to be. And we've got a great mine, and the mine's got a great future. And I think the opportunity that we have over the next 12 months or so is to really start getting stuck into the exploration side of things.
Awesome. That's what I was going to say, mate. What about what are you looking at next 12 to 18 months with a drilling program?
Yeah.
What's your investment there?
It's quite phenomenal, because we have been busy building it, then busy de-risking it through lots of grade control drilling, getting everything sort of up and making sure that delivery is consistent. The next stage is to go back to growth, and we're quite fortunate at Bellevue is that we've got a 10-year mine life. So
amazing.
Mine life's not a big issue for us. Making sure we get the ramp up right and get production right has been the key focus. So that's where our drilling intensity's gone. Over the next couple of years, we've now got underground drill platforms that we can drill from. We're going to have drilling capacity in the fleet of what we can do, and we're going to be able to turn those drills outward and start looking at growth again. So the team's really excited about it. And we're going to start, putting a bit more information on it as we head into the next financial year. And there's been no exploration done at Bellevue apart from one small program that we've just done. We've put out a really nice drill hole result from in the most recent quarterly, but there's been zero exploration done at Bellevue since I started, which was at the end of 2021. So 5 years exploration hiatus. We're going to be able to give it a real shot in the arm and put some runs on the board coming up.
Beautiful, Matt. That's exactly what investors want to hear. Let's talk about the bloody green. I was going to say clean energy, which is clean energy, but green gold. Let's go green gold.
Okay. Yeah. So we, when we were building the mine and making the decision to invest, this was what you'd call peak ESG, right? So every company was fighting to show that they were greener than everybody else, and if you have a look at a mining pitch deck, if you go to Diggers and Dealers from 2021, 2022, the first slides of the company will be about what they're doing from an ESG perspective, right? When you look at it now, some companies won't even have an ESG slide in their deck at all. It's kind of matured a little bit into just being part of the way that we do business. And, I think particularly for companies that operate in Western Australia, having really, forward ESG priorities is just part and parcel of doing business, right? And it's not just decarbonisation; it's everything from stakeholder relations, government relations, employer relations, health and well-being, all those things. But we were making the decision to build the mine in a time when decarb was a huge talking point and really, really important. So we saw an opportunity to put in a really high renewable energy power station, and worked with partner Zenith Energy to do that. And the end result has been we've now got the most renewable energy powered mine in Australia, percentage wise, from a power perspective, and we've been able to declare that we've got net zero gold production for all of last year, for all of 2025. And
Amazing.
We continue to do net zero gold production now. And the net zero gold thing sounds weird, but it is a niche product. And essentially that's kind of what it remains in the market, is that our baseline is that we just sell gold into the spot price, and the spot price is pretty healthy at the moment. By putting the green credentials onto it, or the positive environmental credentials on it, what some of our partners are looking at now is that they can actually buy a differentiated product that might go into some high-end other product that has those green credentials, and the discerning buyer might prefer that gold over another and are willing to pay a premium. So it's a pretty immature market, and it's a market that we've created. Yep. So it's something that we're doing a bit of work on at the moment, and
mate, I like that.
We'll see where it goes.
And I can see. Look, I'm not a greenie by any means. I do my recycling, but I like that. I like that the green gold far more than the story of green steel, because you still got to ship green steel on a diesel powered ship to China, where the refineries are not following any sort of ESG really, and then ship it back. And, if someone came to an investor, if you were looking at building a building, are you going to be buying green steel? Or if you're a shareholder, stakeholder in a company, and they say, hey, listen, we've got green steel, we've got the opportunity here, here's your quotes for your build. This is green steel. It's, let's say, 10 times the price, or 5 times, even if it's 3 times the price of blue scope steel. What are you going to do as a shareholder? As a shareholder, you're building, what are you doing? The answer is very simple. You do not care about green steel, do you? I mean, maybe you've got to be careful. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
I guess it depends on the volume, and it depends on is there because if you're trying to build something that's green, on the green steel side of things, it's a bit of a rabbit hole. But I guess if you find someone who's wanting to build a new Guggenheim museum, for example, so some new really flash premium building, that's when you can justify spending a bit more money and doing it then, right? Thing with with steel is it's a bulk commodity, so it's very, very high frictional cost to get it going. And the real underlying thing that unlocks the green credentials is your infrastructure that you build. So, our power station, in terms of dollars spent to build the power station, cost a lot more than if we just built a diesel station there. Now, building that power station with the green credentials provides you a lot of positives, on top of the ability to create a green product. It just makes you feel good when you go to work. We got 4 big wind turbines turning
I've
out
seen
there.
them,
The staff really like it. It's been a really strong, attraction and retention point for people having the positive ESG credentials that we do.
That's great.
And I guess they're sort of the underlying things that can sort of help justify it. But it's when you look at other projects, because the fundamental reason that we were able to do it is because we have a new project and we built it from scratch.
Yep.
If we had an old project and you're having to spend, hundreds of millions of dollars to decarb it, because you've got to replace the power station, you've got to replace this and replace that, or create new technology, I think it becomes fundamentally harder, and it takes someone, with a lot of vision to be able to do it. So that's kind of the differentiation in my mind about the different green products that you have.
Mate, running a green gold plant with these current fuel issues, how does that look for you?
Yeah, well, one of the things that has been a slight positive out of all the issues that go on worldwide is that, people actually do realise that we're the least exposed to diesel across, the entire gold mining sector. So there's been a lot of focus on diesel usage across gold mines, and we're always at the bottom of the chart because of the capital investment that we made and everything that we did from a decarb perspective at the start. So, it is nice. We put it out in our quarterly, but the diesel cost last quarter was, or year to date, was about 1.3% of our total cost.
Yep.
So, even if that cost was to double, like it's not a material thing for us. Whereas if you're a large, open pit miner with diesel fired power stations, all that, then becomes a much meatier part of your cost base, and it can affect you. So, protecting yourself against disruption from a hydrocarbon perspective was one of the ticks on the charts when we were justifying it back in the day, and it's bearing fruit right now.
Beautiful. Mate, let's get into what separates a exploration company into a producer.
Hey.
Well, you've done it.
Well, yeah,
you're on the forefront of it, and there's so many exploration companies around at the moment, and everyone keeps saying, "Look, we need more processing plants. We need more." That's what they need: processing plants.
Yeah,
and you've done it.
Yeah, I guess the key thing that separated is that you're on a complete other end of the spectrum for what your shareholders expect from you and what your employees expect from you. Exploration is a high risk, high reward business, and it takes 1,000 exploration projects to find one world class mine. And so I really, really do respect the work that the exploration side of things do, because you can work for a long time, you can do a really good job of following up geology and doing the right scientific work and right technical work just to prove a operation is uneconomic. And that might be the right answer for now, but that's certainly your shareholders and everyone don't appreciate you for doing that good technical work if that is indeed the case. Being an operator, there are just the expectations that are put on you. You call it the hamster wheel, right? So you fight really hard to get on the hamster wheel of production, but when you're on that hamster wheel, you're running and you don't stop. And you have a decent quarterly, and they're right. Okay, that's awesome. What's your next one look like? And
they want bigger and better. Don't they?
It depends on the expectations that you set for yourself and the expectations that you set. Like the market always wants growth. Like the market definitely always wants growth, and growth needs to come in some way. But that can be growth through exploration, it can be growth through production, it can be growth through cost reduction. Like there's a lot of ways to create that going forward. But production's a hamster wheel. Like and it's always when you're in a production company, one of the bits of feedback you always get is, oh, we don't celebrate success enough. And the reason you do that is because, it's not like you win a grand final in footy, although being a Dockers supporter, I don't know what that feels like as much.
Maybe this year.
I got in early. There you go. But, you don't have that win and then suddenly you have 4 months off until the next time starts. The next time starts immediately, so you're straight back on the hamster wheel and you're running. But, it's all the game we signed up for. And I guess that's the key is, when it comes to, talking to investors, talking to the market, talking to employees, traveling to conferences, doing all those things. Like you get pulled in all these directions, doing podcasts.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
You get pulled in all these directions, but that's what you sign up for when you take the job. You're the person that does all those things, and you want to do those things because it allows the workers, the ones that create the real value, to concentrate on their jobs, which is being on site, producing the gold, cutting the costs, making the money that ultimately creates the shareholder value at the start.
What's Bellevue's cost per ounce at the moment?
So we're operating. Last quarterly is about $2,600 an ounce, which is sort of within our guidance range for the year.
Beautiful. All right, making some cash, put some cash away.
Yeah.
Got any?
Yeah, we've got some hedging.
Book?
So we've got a hedge book that we've been dealing with. So we've been putting less cash in the bank, and we've been sort of focusing on reducing that hedge liability. And that hedge liability came about because when you build a mine, you have to take on debt.
Of course.
Hedging's part of the debt facility, and we're still dealing with the hedging that was put in place to build the mine, albeit we're down to about 90,000 ounces left in the hedge book. And we'll have that cleared out in the next 12 months, and then we'll be hedge free and moving forward that way.
Yeah, Wayne Bramall was real keen on telling everyone how no hedging.
Yeah, and I guess hedging, the way to think about it is it's a form of insurance. So
definitely. When
you make a capital investment, you want to be sure that you can get returns from that investment sometime in the future. And when you think about things in a probability sense, the gold price should have as much probability to go up as go down. What we've seen though is that it's gone one way, right?
Yeah, and look, imagine it going down at the same rate that it went up.
Yeah,
it's so unlikely.
It'd be pretty tough. It'd be bad for the sector. It'd be tough for everyone. And I guess the key really has been that you get these liabilities you put in. Look, I would prefer not to have 100 mil of debt being owed, but you do because that's what you put in place to build a project. You just deal with it methodically, becomes part of your capital allocation. We've gone on a big sort of hedge minimization strategy over the past probably 6 to 9 months.
What does that consist of?
Oh, look, we just deliver into hedges rather than deliver into the spot market.
Okay.
So we reduce the hedge liability. So we just look at it on the balance sheet now as, you've got debt that you owe. You've got a mark-to-market hedge value that is there. We can choose to deliver ounces into the spot market, or we can choose to deliver ounces into the hedge book to reduce that liability. So, as our company, we've got, plus 4 months worth of working capital on the balance sheet. That's a comfortable position to be in. So we can start to chip away at those liabilities. So we'll get rid of the hedging, we'll get rid of the debt, and we'll be in a really nice position with an awesome mine hitting its straps. No debt, no hedging in a very short amount of time, and then we can start to see what else is on the horizon for us.
Beautiful, mate. Well, look, I can't wait to hear you speak once again at Diggers and Dealers this year. But look, my final question for you is hit me with some bloody good advice, some great advice, the best advice that you've ever received.
Yeah. So the advice that I always say, and being a Fremantle supporter, I used to love the old Ross Lyon press conferences and see how he dealt with people and he dealt with wins and losses and everything. And I'm known amongst the office for quoting Ross Lyon a lot.
Okay.
But one of his philosophies is it's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. So, in the good times, don't drink your own bathwater. Don't take too much ownership of the good times because it's mining. There's always going to be challenges. And what that allows you to do by not taking that ownership and not getting too overexcited in the good times is it allows you to stay steady and stay strong in the bad times as well. So, it's what you always say. If somebody comes in and gives me good news, I quite often will say, never as good, never as bad. When someone gives you bad news, it's always never as good, never as bad. It's always somewhere in the middle, and there's always a way you can work through it. So I think it's good advice.
That's bloody ripper advice, mate. Look, thank you very much for spending the time coming in and the chat that we had before. Awesome. This is why I do it. I get to take away some amazing knowledge, meeting some great people, and as I said, showcasing the people doing great things in our industry. I think it's so powerful.
I appreciate it, mate. No, you're doing good work.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, mate.
Cheers.
Thank you very much for tuning into another ripper episode on the Gold Room podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Cheers.